Welcome, everybody, to our newly inaugurated monthly lecture series. We're going to try to have something once a month on the last Tuesday of the month where we revisit some kind of topic that is up for me and I guess give some comments on them, etc. And then we we will have an opportunity for questions and comments. I personally prefer to take them as we go during the course of the conversation. So if you have something that you want to ask, please raise your hand. You know, you can do that on Zoom by at the bottom, there's something that says responses. You click on that, and then it'll allow you to raise your hand. Um, what we're trying to do is develop some community and develop some togetherness, even though many of us are in areas where we're the only Viniyoga practitioner or where we don't have very many other colleagues. So that's something that we can get together and be together, etc. Today, we're going to talk about the deceptive simplicity of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, and um, I don't write any of the marketing materials. And so I did actually write the marketing materials to this, and it was going to be on the importance of studying in an ongoing fashion. And somehow it got turned into something else, and I don't know what to say about that other thing. So I'm going to, no. Those of you who know me know that I am never at a loss for words. So we'll be able to cover something here. They actually the two things go together very well. So we'll do both of them at the same time. All right. So we'll begin with some chanting. As you all know, we have been given by our teachers introduction to an ongoing conversation that has been happening in depth for at least the last couple thousand years, which is exploring the experience of being and the meaning of that and the skills of that. And yoga is a pathway for understanding what it means to be and all of the different aspects, etc. So to acknowledge our debts, to acknowledge the gifts that we are given by these techniques, by these texts, by the instruction, by the handing down from one person to another, from teacher to student, who then becomes a teacher and hands it down to others, etc. We to acknowledge that debt and to give appreciation for the care and love that it represents. We start with some chanting. So please, if you know the chanting, please chant with me. Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarottam Pravarnam Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankhachakrasiddharinam Sahasrashirasam Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim Srimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha. Those are three separate invocations honoring Patanjali, whose text we will look at today. And now we'll honor our own individual teachers, Sri Krishnamacharya and Mr. Deshikachar. Shri Krishna Vagishayatishvarabhyam Samprapta Chakrankarna Bhashya Saram Shri Nuitnarengendra Yatau Samarpitasvam Shri Krishna Maryam Guru Varyamide Virodhe Kartike Mase Shatatara Kritodayam Yogacharyam Krishna Maryam Guru Varyamaham Bhaje Krishna Suridaya Patram Jnanam Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanathayam Vandeham Yoga Deshikam Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Salutations to all of the teachers. Indeed. Okay. So we're going to talk today primarily about Patanjali's Yoga Sutra and why it's important and what it is and what his uh, insight into being is. And I'm always struck by uh, how simple the content of the text is. You know, it's one of those things where it's very short. It's, 195, 196 sentences long, divided into 4 chapters. Um, and it covers, a lot of different ideas. But if we start taking those ideas and cross-referencing them and looking at what the content of the ideas actually are, there's only a very few actual ideas. So it's as though Patanjali has taken something like, say this pen, and first he talks about it in from this perspective. Oh, there's a point and there's ink and it makes marks. Okay, fine. And then he actually talks from this perspective. Well, it's long and tubular and able to be held with 3 fingers so that when you make marks, you can make them in certain ways and it facilitates being held by the hand. Da, da, da. And then he talks about it from this end and he says, well, there's a, a button on the end that when you push in and out, the thing that is the marking comes in, and if you want to use it, you push in and then it comes out. When you're done, you push on it again. And oh, by the way, there's this little clip that you can put on your clothes to carry it around with you. All of it is all centered around this is a writing implement, right? But there are so many specific details. There are so many specific details related to what is the writing implement and how the writing implement is crafted and what are useful characteristics of a writing implement. I mean, this is a poor metaphor, but you get the idea. So, Patanjali's core insight is that one's experience of life, in other words, what it is to be in a physical body with the mind, etc., that experience is shaped by the quality of the lens through which all of your experiences happen. You know, even more essential is to say that the essential insight is the quality of your mind body determines the experience of life. Okay, then we can break that down a little bit and we can say on a more on a secondary level, but still a foundational level, uh, there are two aspects to the quality of your mind and body. The first aspect is qualities, state, mood. What what is the functioning of the mind and body? Is it active? Is it quiet? We can then build that out into so many different qualities. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it active? Is it, is it quiet, etc. So, but the essential aspect is quality. Then the second aspect is, do you identify with the history of experiences or not? In other words, it's a question of identity. So if we look at what is Yoga Sutras, right? We can say the obvious things. Yoga Sutras are a core text of yoga. They're foundation of the philosophical take on yoga. We can say that you know Samkhya has had a philosophical insight that there are only two entities in the universe. One is material and the other is conscious, and that those two come together, and that that forms the basis of suffering, etc. And then we can say Patanjali's Yoga Sutra turns that philosophical insight into a psychological understanding and applies it to me. What does it mean that materiality and consciousness are distinct entities? What does that look like in the process of the fact that I live, I eat, I have relationships, I eat, I wear, I live somewhere. And Patanjali turns this kind of dry but really amazing insight into existing on this planet and how it operates. He turns that into a personalized path for understanding, well, who am I? Why am I having the experiences that I'm having? How does it work? And what should I do about it? What can I do about it? Right? And and that that insight, just to return to the initial foundational insight, is that the universe, we can just talk about the world, is a personal place. Because my experiences of the world are all mediated through the mind and the body. In other words, what happens in my mind, what happens in my body cannot be, uh, it is fundamentally related to what I perceive as happening into the in the world. Because of that, everywhere I go, I take the same mind and the same body. And so, whatever situation is unfolding, there's the constant of me there. And whatever is me is not a unbiased perspective, but actually a contributing part of the experience. That what it is to be alive with a container that comes with me wherever I go is to be affected by the qualities and the structures of that lens. I mean, it's pretty simple. Now, why we are saying it's deceptively simple is because it's so foundationally part of our experiencing of the world that it often operates invisibly in our experience. It's just there. And we often are not aware of it. Even when there's dramatic changes, I'm having a good day and my daughter spills her milk. Yeah, no big deal. And then the next day, you know, I'm really having an awful day and my daughter spills her milk. And then it's actually kind of a big deal. Whoa, what's different? Me. I'm different. So it's that variation there is very often not easily perceivable. You know, even, and we're talking about qualities. The qualities are the easier thing to see. You know, we kind of know when we've had a bad night's sleep. We kind of know when we're stressed. We kind of know when the situation of the environment or the world around us is causing us stress. Those things are sort of knowledge. We kind of are aware of that. But somehow it's so much part of the experience of the world that we very often don't discern how strongly it's influencing our experience and our being. And then there's the questions of, you know, there's questions of like the influence of the history of our experiences. So one of the things that you see with with parents is that when their kids get to be the age that the parent had a big difficulty, the parent, without even recognizing it, has all of these things that are now embedded into their interactions with the kid, with the other parents, with the school, whatever entity you're using to train your child. And it's like this um, history of my own experiences is so foundational to how I'm experiencing the world. I'm not even aware that, like, oh my word, when I was 13, such and such thing happened. And now I'm like making a whole bunch of choices for my kid or steering my kid in such a way that I hope it won't happen for them. And I'm not even aware of it. Right. And we do this all the time. We do this all the time. Political opinions. It's so often that when we form a political opinion, it's with careful thought, and it's based on our history of experiences, and then it becomes part of how we see the world, et cetera, et cetera. It just seems like, well, duh, that's what any rational, any reasonable, intelligent person will think. And of course, there are lots of rational and intelligent people with different opinions. And it's like, how can those people be so crazy? I don't understand it. And right, so it's this is just to say that there's the the other aspect that Patanjali has identified as having a fundamentally uh, formative impact on our experiences of in the world. In other words, our beingness is the structure of or the history of our experiences. So what Patanjali sets out to do is to lay a path work. It's a path that helps us come to understand those two aspects. On one aspect, it's what are the qualities of my functioning. In other words, you can call them gunas, you can call them sattva, rajas, tamas. If you're Ayurvedic, you can say, there's the 10 pairs, right? There's the 10 pairs, the hot, cold, etc. Gross, subtle, etc. If you want to use English, we can talk about moods. We can talk about speeds. We can talk about functioning. So many people wake up in the morning and take a stimulant, call it coffee, whatever you want to call it. And then in the evening, they take a depressant, you know, alcohol, whatever it may be. Shows, YouTube, etc. Right? There's a way that they're managing their state. So Patanjali is also really attuned to this, and he is really providing a lot of information about what a imbalanced state, non-balanced functioning looks like. On On an emotional level, he points out there will be some kind of negative feeling. When you're out of balance, there'll be some thing that is not peace, not calm, not love. It will be, and you can fill in the blank, anxiety, nervousness, anger, frustration, jealousy, you know, grief, etc. This is not to say that if you have your normal range of emotions that you're out of balance. We are not robots. But it is to point out that in a state of when we're uh, off our center, the result will be these different emotions arise, or a tendency towards these different emotions arise. Another symptom of our uh, not being balanced is negative outlook. Daur manase, he calls it. It is so useful to see when we are not functioning well, we will tend to see impending doom, or we'll tend to see it's never going to work out. I'm not going to get my way. The other shoe is going to fall. So, what is a quality of the experience of life when our system goes out of balance? Dark and cloudy. We are no longer on the sunny side of life. Okay. What else does he say? Well, when another symptom of this state is that our mind will be uh, distracted, dissipated. It will be difficult for our attention to remain with a single thing. It will go here, it will go there, it will go the other place. It will be hard to remain with whatever it is that we're intending to focus on. You know, think of your experience of being as a kind of movie, and each thought being uh, a direction. So many of us, when we're out of balance, those directions are all over the place. We look at something, we look at a number on the fridge that I gotta call that person. But then that makes me think, well, before I call them, I need to find out if I'm available on Tuesday. So then I look at my calendar, and then looking at my calendar, I think of, oh, this morning I was supposed to, and then, okay, so can I still do that? Well, I got to figure out. And anyway, we go, and then in figuring that out, I see a piece of mail um, on the counter, and that takes me in a different direction, and then we're all over the place. Right? So this is actually the kind of functioning that happens when the qualities of our system are not well balanced. He also says that when our system is imbalanced, that physiologically things will not work well. For instance, you have trouble sleeping. Your hunger will not function as it should, as in an ideal way. Your digestion won't function that well, etc. Right? So physical, you have a rash, your hair is falling out, whatever. Physical things are uh, indicating a quality of the overall system. And of course, the length of our breath is also a symptom that Patanjali talks about. So, if we look at the qualities of his practices, what he's essentially advocating is that we are trying to establish the qualities that are present when our system is well balanced in an intentional way. Make your breath smooth and a little bit longer. By doing this, it's changing the qualities of your system. It's bringing the qualities towards uh, a more optimal functioning. Make efforts to do one thing and stay with that one thing. This is called containing the mind. Chitta vritti nirodha means the mind is contained. That means different things at different levels. In practice, it means that we're not allowing it to wander. We're not allowing it to be like the leaves blown in the wind, scattered. No, you're containing it. This requires effort. Yes, why? Because the qualities of our system are such that it will be supporting a different kind of functioning. So you have to make efforts to have this functioning be the operative way that you're being. And that effort is changing the qualities of your system and moving it towards a way that is supportive of optimal functioning. I mean, it's even though what Patanjali is saying is quite simple, there's so many different aspects to it. And the actual verbalization of it is challenging because what are we doing when we're verbalizing it? We're describing some experiences that we're having. So for the words to actually have meaning for us, having those experiences is very useful. If we haven't had those experiences, very often we intellectually understand the words, but they don't translate into some kind of change in our behavior or change in our experience of the world, right? This is why it's so important to study in a continual manner because what we're doing is experiential learning. It's like music or cooking or dance. There is a way that the doing of it is supported by the intellectual apparatus that gets built around the experience of the doing. You know, in music, you have scales and you have tempo and you have harmonies and you have all of these things that describe the experiences of it and are extremely useful. but they are not the same thing as singing or listening, right? Or playing. So yoga is the same thing. And these structures that we have about, well, your system, your mind and your body are the filter through which all of your experiences are coming through, and and the quality of your body, mind, etc., are going to color your experiences, etc. Until you're having that experience, all those words are very interesting and they're helpful and they're nice. But if they're not helping you to identify the fact that, okay, I stayed up late watching the show, I didn't sleep well this morning, I'm grouchy, and so I'm short in my communication with my kid. If 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 that experience of interacting with my child is not being influenced by all the intellectual ideas, we don't care. We don't care. It's like all the scales and all the tempos and all that, you know, it just doesn't. It just doesn't translate into the experience of the music. One of the things, and Patanjali actually says this himself, he says, when you study, you start off in a gross understanding. And then slowly you see things, you have insights that you didn't have before. And insights arise, and in those insights, um, it's subtle. It's stuff you hadn't understood before. And then as that happens, then there's slowly those things become obvious. And as that becomes obvious, it's a kind of foundation in which your orientation actually changes. And with that changed orientation, new insights arise. And as those new insights arise, then those are subtle. And slowly, those become obvious. And that again changes the orientation, etc. But this is not something that you just do in one go. You know, Mr. Deshakachar told me that he studied the Yoga Sutra with his father 7 times. You know, he said the first time that he studied with the Yoga Sutra with his father, he said, "Father, don't teach me about God. I'm not interested. God is your thing, not mine." So when they got to Yoga Sutra 123, which says surrender to higher power, surrender to God, if you will, they skipped it. They skipped 123 and to 129, and they went to 130. And then Mr. Deshikichar said, you know, a few years later when we came to go back through it again, and when we came to 123 again, my father said, well, this does not apply to you, so we'll go on. And I said, well, Father, I should at least know what it says. At least I should at least know what it says. So there is some interest that has arisen in a different way about the concept based on understanding what all the other concepts were. So I see how yoga is Patanjali is presenting yoga, and I see how it thinks about life and operating yourself, etc. I should at least know what the concepts are related to higher power, to God, etc. So, please teach. And I will say that by the time I was interacting with Mr. Deshikachar on a deep level, which was really that last, uh, 12, 14 years of his life, he was the most spiritual person I have ever met. I'm sure that I've met lots of spiritual people that that I didn't recognize, but in my recognizing and my understanding, he was so spiritual. And for him, he never used the word God in his own thinking. He used the word father, my father, which Christians will see a parallel, right? So something happened for him in those 30 years of living and studying with his father. There was such a deep transformation. And that doesn't happen with a single reading. It happens each time you go through the text, there's another, there's a new you. The teacher is also different. The teacher is also different. So the teacher's explanations are different. You are different. Your understanding of what is the process of yoga and what you're doing and how you're doing it, what's important, is being shaped by the experiences that you're having, which causes new questions to arise, which causes new insights. It's really an amazing gift that we've been given here with lifelong learning, lifelong, meaningful, satisfying curiosity. Really encourage you. Don't think, oh, I've already gone through the Yoga Sutras. And I went through them with my teacher, and my teacher had gone through them with his or her teacher, and so this is the meaning of the text, and this is the way it works, and etc. One of the things that I'll say about um, the experience of studying with Mr. Deshikachar is that it always felt fresh. I have been through Yoga Sutras with other of Krishnamacharya's students, and sometimes those presentations feel a little bit like a parrot. Teacher said da 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 da. Da. What happened with Mr. Deshikachar was it was like the ingredients got put into the pan, got mixed up, and then they got baked. They got cooked. And when they came out, they were something different. And the presentation was here is this, here is this transformed idea. It was alive. And that is really a gift. Take this text as something that is new and fresh, something that is arising with different questions in different ways. Of course, the fact that it takes a long time to go through it, we on average online, it takes us with the at the Yoga Well Institute where I'm leading, it takes us about 6 years to go through the text. It takes it takes a little bit more than a year and a half for each of the first 3 chapters, and then it takes a little bit more than a year for the 4th chapter. So it's 6 years for us to go through the text. You know what that allows? Time for catastrophe. Time for major life change. Think about, if you have children, think about the difference of what your kid needs at age 6 and age 12, and what that requires of you as a guide. So the text gives, going through it at that kind of pace and that kind of depth, gives guidance for a lot of different situations. You know, if you have ever lost a parent, you know how different the world is. The sun is still shining, traffic is still going, birds are still flying back and forth and eating. I mean, it looks the same, but it is a totally different world. And what do I do in here? Having those changes of our own identity is it makes this study so rich. It it provides the meanings of the words a different application, and thereby a different meaning. It is deceptively simple. It's a personalized universe. The quality of your system and the record of your experiences, they're shaping what's happening. So the solution for that is change the change the qualities, you know, the gunas, bring them towards some kind of optimal functioning, and see through the false identification with your past record of experience. Recognize that even though it's your wife, your husband, your kid, your house, your career, that those things are not actually you. Recognize that those things are events. Those things are things that create structures that limit consciousness. Let there be an internal distance where the structures of the lens do not limit the structure of your experience. You still have to be a wife or a husband. You still have to be a parent or a child. You still have to be, in your work, etc. Those things, the roles that you play uh, are not necessarily changed by the shift in your relationship with the lens and how you manage the lens, but the way that you are in those roles will be completely different. Just like it takes years to perfect a dance technique, it also takes years to work through this. Those are my thoughts on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, deceptively simple presentation of what it is to be and what it is that Patanjali is presenting. And a reminder and an encouragement that we will be starting chapter 1 again. I do bring in the main commentary on Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, um, which the most recent academic presentations are calling actually the work of Patanjali, but I don't personally agree with that, although I am well aware of it, and I do present the their perspectives so that you have a broad understanding of what the Western presentations are and how they're getting there, but also how you can make this a, a guide for how you operate your own life and the way that the path that Patanjali is describing as a way to freedom and independence. We will start that the towards the end of April. So please join us. It's fun. We have a lot of discussion, a lot of questions. It's very practical. It's very about implementing these ideas in your own life. Because even though they are super simple, the actual embodiment of them takes some time. Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't leave as much time at the end for questions or comments that I had originally envisioned, but are there questions or are there comments? Yes, please, Christina.
Okay, I'm unmuted. First of all, I just want to express my appreciation for these sessions. And it feels really good to see you. And I know some of people, colleagues from the past are here too. And, I am one of those people who am a bit isolated. I live in a small community. And although I'm teaching, I am feeling that I need to connect with colleagues more and make more of an effort to continue my studies. I mean, yeah. So, yeah. So, thank you for kind of jump starting my interest and making this available. It's so great to see you, Chase.
Great. Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
I also am in a small community and I also thirst to be able to like talk on a deep level through these things, which are so meaningful in my life and so important in the way that I experience my life. And without our, online community, it would be a lot would be lost. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good. Thank you for saying that. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Karen, thoughts, questions? Being as I have the power of Zoom.
It is so wonderful to see your smile. Thank you for the invitation. And yeah, everything you said, you were in my head, Chase. I was like, stop it, Chase. Stop being in my head. But I'm delighted to be here. Yeah.
Good, good. Yeah, that's the way I felt about Mr. Deshikachar, and I think that's the way everybody felt about Mr. Deshikachar. Is you're listening to him, and you're just thinking, "Wow, this is for me. He's talking to me." Of course, then after the class, you talk to somebody, and they're like, "Oh my God, he was talking to me." You're like, "No, no, 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 he was talking to me." Good. Okay, well, we'll do a little chanting again to acknowledge that we couldn't have these discussions without the teachers that have come before us and who are supported this and who have the who make our practice possible, and to just remind that we are part of that ongoing link, and that it's our um, it's our role, our responsibility to pass on what we have understood, however imperfectly, so that others may continue to have the discussions and the exploration and curiosity, etc., that we have. So, just a little acknowledging of that. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै Narayanaayeti samarpayami. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu. All right. We'll see y'all again soon. Thank you.